Get your hands off that cart now. You're coming with me. Step back, officer. I'm a United States Marshal.
The city was loud that morning. Cars honked without stopping. People rushed across the sidewalks with coffee in their hands. Store owners opened their doors. Street musicians played for coins. Nobody looked twice at the old food cart standing near the corner. To everyone passing by, it was just another street vendor trying to make money. But that morning was not normal. Behind the small cart stood a tall black man wearing a faded jacket, dark cap, and work gloves. Steam rose from the hot pretzels lined up in rows. He moved slowly and calmly, handing food to customers with a polite smile. Most people saw only a poor man trying to survive. They did not see the way his eyes watched every movement on the street. They did not notice how he remembered every face. They did not notice the tiny earpiece hidden under his cap. And they definitely did not know his real name. To the public, he was just Marcus, the pretzel vendor. But to few people inside the federal government, he was U.S. Marshal Marcus Reed. For 17 months, Marcus had been working undercover. Not in a mansion, not in a secret office, not in some expensive suit. He had spent nearly a year and a half on that same sidewalk, selling pretzels every day, standing in the cold, the heat, and the rain. Why? Because this block had a disease. People disappeared from their businesses. Street sellers lost money every week. Small shop owners paid cash to stay safe. Those who refused got tickets, broken carts, or sudden arrests, and every name led back to one man, Officer Daniel Briggs. Marcus looked across the street, right on time. A police cruiser turned the corner and rolled slowly toward the sidewalk. The moment some people saw the car, they looked away. One woman grabbed her child's hand and crossed the street. A fruit seller quickly packed his table. A man fixing watches shut his case and left. Fear moved faster than traffic. Marcus noticed all of it. The cruiser stopped hard near the curb. The driver door opened. Officer Daniel Briggs stepped out like he owned the street. Tall, broad shoulders, clean uniform, dark sunglasses, a smile with no warmth. He looked around the block the way hunters scan a field. Then his eyes landed on Marcus. "There he is," Briggs said quietly. Marcus kept arranging pretzels. Briggs walked closer, slow and proud. Every step made the sidewalk quieter. A teenager nearby lifted his phone and started recording. Two office workers stopped to watch. An old woman sitting on a bench whispered, "Not again." Briggs reached the cart and slammed his palm on the metal top. The loud bang made several people jump. Marcus slowly looked up. Their eyes met. Briggs smirked. "Well, well," he said. "Still here?" Marcus gave a small, calm smile. "Good morning, officer." Briggs hated the tone. No fear, no shaking voice, no begging, just calm. "You got a permit for this junk?" Briggs asked, pointing at the cart. Marcus wiped his hands with a towel. "Same permit I showed last week." Briggs leaned closer. "I asked for today." Some people watching knew the truth. Briggs did this often. Every week it was a new reason, new rule, new threat, same goal, money. Marcus reached slowly into his pocket. The crowd held its breath. But instead of papers, he pulled out a napkin and cleaned a spot on the cart. Briggs' jaw tightened. "You think this is funny?" Marcus looked him in the eye. "No, sir, I think it is routine." The crowd reacted softly. Someone laughed. Briggs heard it. His face darkened. He grabbed the cash jar from the side of the cart and shook it. Coins rattled, bills folded inside. "What's this?" Briggs asked. "Customer money," Marcus said. Briggs opened the jar and counted quickly. $240. He pocketed the bills. "Street tax." Gasps came from the sidewalk. "That's stealing," the old woman shouted. Briggs turned instantly. "One more word and I'll write you up too." The old woman clenched her jaw but stayed quiet. Marcus watched every second. His breathing never changed. His hands never shook. Briggs stepped closer until they were inches apart. "You people never learn," Briggs said coldly. "This street works because I allow it." Marcus said nothing for a moment. Then he glanced at the small camera hidden in a parked van across the road. The signal light blinked green. Recording. He looked back at Briggs. Then Marcus spoke in a calm voice that made several people freeze. "Officer, you sure you want to do this today?" For the first time, Briggs looked confused, then angry. He grabbed Marcus by the collar. "You threatening me?" Phones rose higher. The crowd moved back. Marcus slowly lifted one hand and pressed a tiny button hidden under his watch. Briggs tightened his grip on Marcus's collar as the sidewalk went completely silent. The only sound was distant traffic and the soft clicking of phones recording every second. Marcus did not resist. He stood still, calm, as if the hand on his collar meant nothing. That calmness irritated Briggs more than fear ever could. "You think you're smart," Briggs snapped. Marcus looked at him directly. "No," he said quietly. "I think you're predictable." Briggs frowned. Before he could respond, Marcus's watch gave a small vibration. A hidden light blinked once. Green, confirmation received. Somewhere far away, a system had just activated. Briggs did not notice. He shoved Marcus backward. The cart shook violently. Pretzels fell onto the ground. Steam rose into the air. The crowd gasped again. A man stepped forward but stopped when Briggs pointed at him. "Stay out of this," Briggs barked. Silence returned instantly. Marcus bent down slowly and picked up a fallen pretzel. He looked at it for a moment, then placed it aside carefully, like nothing important had been lost. Briggs noticed that too. No panic, no anger, no fear, just control. That made him uneasy. Briggs grabbed the cash jar again. "You've been collecting nicely," he said. "Maybe I should take more time inspecting your little business." He kicked one of the cart wheels. The metal screeched loudly. The cart tilted. Bottles and containers shifted. The crowd reacted again, some stepping back further. Marcus finally spoke, still calm. "You're making a mistake." Briggs laughed. "Every criminal says that." Marcus slowly straightened up. His eyes shifted briefly to a reflection in a nearby shop window. Two white vans had just turned onto the far end of the street. Perfect timing. Briggs didn't see them. He was too focused on control. He stepped closer again. "You know what I think," Briggs said. "I think you've been hiding behind this cart too long." Marcus tilted his head slightly. "Maybe." That single word made Briggs smile. "Then let me fix that." He pulled out handcuffs. The metal clicked loudly. People in the crowd reacted immediately. Some whispered, some stepped back, some raised their phones higher. Briggs raised the cuffs. "Turn around." Marcus didn't move. The moment stretched. Briggs's patience broke. He grabbed Marcus's wrist. "I said" before he could finish. A deep engine roar echoed from both ends of the street. Tires screeched. Black SUVs entered fast, blocking both sides of the road within seconds. The crowd reacted instantly. Confusion, shock, fear. Doors opened. Armed federal agents stepped out in formation. "Federal agents, nobody move," the voice shouted. Briggs froze. Slowly, he looked around. The street he controlled a moment ago was now surrounded. Marcus gently pulled his wrist free from Briggs's hand. Briggs stepped back instinctively. "What the hell is this?" he shouted. Marcus finally reached into his jacket. His movement was slow, controlled. The entire crowd watched. He pulled out a leather case, opened it. A gold badge reflected the sunlight. United States Marshal Service. The world changed in that instant. Gasps erupted across the sidewalk. Phones shook in people's hands. Briggs's face lost color. Marcus looked at him directly. "Officer Daniel Briggs," he said calmly, "you are under federal investigation." The silence that followed was heavier than anything before it. Briggs stood frozen as the words "federal investigation" sank into his mind. The gold badge in Marcus Reed's hand reflected the sunlight like a warning he could not escape. For the first time, Officer Daniel Briggs did not look powerful. He looked exposed. The crowd behind him slowly started reacting, whispers turning into shocked voices. Phones kept recording, capturing every second of his downfall. Marcus closed the badge case and slipped it back into his jacket with complete calm. He was not in a hurry. He was not excited. He had seen this moment coming for a long time. Briggs finally forced a laugh, but it sounded weak. "You think a badge changes anything," he said loudly, trying to regain control. "You're still just one man on a street." Marcus looked at him steadily. "No," he replied. "I am the result of 17 months of watching you." That sentence made the crowd go silent again. Briggs shifted his stance, trying to hide his fear behind anger. "This is harassment. You set me up." One of the federal agents stepped forward. A tablet was raised in front of Briggs. "Audio recordings, video evidence, financial tracking, witness statements," the agent said. "Everything is already verified." Briggs looked at the screen. His own voice played back clearly, demanding money, threatening vendors, taking cash, smiling while doing it. The sound of his own corruption echoed across the street. Briggs shook his head. That's edited. Marcus gave a small nod toward the agent. Another file opened. Live footage, multiple angles, different days, same actions, same behavior. The crowd reacted louder now. Some people stepped closer, recognizing moments they had suffered through. An old man pointed at Briggs. "He took money from my shop for months," he said loudly. A young vendor added, "He broke my cart when I refused." More voices followed, one after another, truth rising all at once. Briggs looked around, realizing the street was no longer silent. It was speaking against him. Marcus watched everything carefully. This was not chaos. This was evidence becoming alive. Briggs suddenly stepped back. "You don't understand what you're doing," he said quickly. "This street is controlled by people higher than you." Marcus tilted his head slightly. "Then we will meet them too." That response made Briggs pause. Federal agents moved in closer. Handcuffs were ready, but Briggs was not finished. His eyes shifted across the street, scanning for an exit. He was calculating, always calculating. Then he suddenly lunged forward, trying to push through the nearest agent. "Stop him!" someone shouted, but Briggs was already moving. Two agents grabbed him instantly. He struggled, shouting now. "You don't know who you're touching." Marcus walked closer slowly as Briggs was forced to his knees. "I know exactly who I am touching," Marcus said. Briggs looked up, breathing hard. "This doesn't end with me," he said quickly. Marcus knelt slightly, meeting his eyes. "You're right," he said. "It starts with you." Briggs stopped struggling for a second. Confusion replaced anger. That was when Marcus stood again and turned slightly toward Dana, the lead federal agent. "Secure all local channels," he said. "No leaks, no alerts." Dana nodded and moved immediately. Briggs heard that and suddenly realized something. This was not just an arrest. This was an operation. A planned system removal. He began to panic. "You can't do this alone," Briggs said quickly. Marcus looked at him once more. "I never was alone." At that exact moment, more federal units arrived at the end of the street. Not just SUVs this time. Armored vans, evidence teams, tactical support. The entire block was now sealed. The crowd stepped back as the scale of the operation became clear. Marcus turned away from Briggs and looked at the street one more time. The same street that had been controlled by fear for years. "Clear the area," he said calmly. "We move to Phase 2. Briggs looked up in shock. "Phase 2, Marcus did not answer immediately. Instead, he adjusted his jacket and spoke quietly. "The network." The word changed everything in the air. Briggs stopped moving. Even the agents looked at each other because they all understood what it meant. This was no longer about one corrupt officer. It was about something much bigger. And Marcus Reed had just shifted the entire case forward. Briggs was still on his knees when Marcus spoke the word that changed everything again. "The network." For a moment, even the federal agents stopped moving. The street felt heavier, like everyone understood that this case was no longer local. It was something bigger, something that had been growing under the surface for years. Briggs slowly lifted his head. There was no confidence left in his face now, only fear and confusion. "You don't understand what you just stepped into," he said quietly. Marcus looked at him without emotion. "I understand more than you think." Dana stepped forward with a secured tablet in her hand. "We've got encrypted data coming in from the field units," she said. "Multiple officers are deleting records remotely. Someone inside the system is reacting fast." Marcus nodded once. "They know we're moving up the chain." Briggs laughed weakly from the ground. "Chain," he repeated. "You still think this is a chain, it's a web, and you're already caught in it." Marcus turned slightly. "Then we cut the center." That sentence made Briggs go silent. Within minutes, the street operation expanded. Federal agents sealed every exit, drones lifted into the sky. Surveillance teams mapped nearby buildings. The city block was no longer a street, it was a controlled zone. Marcus walked toward one of the SUVs and opened a secured case inside. Files, photos, bank records, surveillance clips. Dana joined him. "We've confirmed something," she said quietly. Briggs wasn't acting alone at ground level. He was reporting to a command structure inside the department. Marcus flipped through the files slowly. "Names," Dana hesitated. "Captain Harold Lewis is confirmed, but there's more. Communications point higher than him." Marcus paused. That meant internal command was compromised beyond one officer. Briggs, still on the ground, heard the name and suddenly reacted. Lewis will not let you walk out of this city alive, he said quickly. Marcus didn't even look at him. Then he will fail like you did. Briggs shook his head. You don't get it. Lewis has protection, federal ties, political support. You're walking into a sealed system. Marcus closed the file. Nothing is sealed. He turned toward Dana. Move units to the precinct. We take command records first. Dana nodded and relayed orders instantly. The operation shifted again. Federal SUVs began rolling out, lights off, silent movement through the city. Briggs watched as his control disappeared in real time. He suddenly tried to stand again, but agents pushed him back down. You're making a mistake, he shouted. Marcus finally turned toward him. No, he said. You made one when you thought this street belonged to you. Briggs froze for a moment, then something changed in his expression. Not anger, not arrogance, fear mixed with realization. You're not just here for me, he said slowly. Marcus didn't respond. That silence was the answer. Briggs leaned forward slightly. They will erase everything before you reach them. Marcus stepped closer. Let them try. The convoy moved again. Marcus entered the lead vehicle. Dana sat beside him reviewing live feeds. Precinct is alerting internal staff, she said. They're preparing records burn protocols. Marcus nodded. Too late. As they drove through the city, lights reflecting off windows, the scale of the operation became clearer. This was no longer a street-level arrest. It was a system breach. Dana looked at Marcus. If Lewis confirms what we suspect, this becomes national level. Marcus kept his eyes forward. It already is. The convoy stopped near the precinct building. Police cars were parked outside. Officers stood near the entrance, confused, watching federal units arrive. Marcus stepped out first. Silence followed him. Dana gave the order. Secure building. No one moves without clearance. Within seconds, the precinct was surrounded again. Inside, panic began to spread. Marcus walked toward the entrance slowly. Every step was calm, controlled, final. Briggs's warning echoed in his mind. Lewis will not let you walk out alive. Marcus stopped at the door and looked up at the building. Then I will meet him inside, he said quietly, and he stepped in. The precinct doors closed behind Marcus Reed with a heavy metallic sound that echoed through the hallway. Inside, the atmosphere was already different. No usual police calm. No routine movement. Officers were tense, watching monitors, whispering into radios, and looking toward the entrance where federal agents were now taking control. Marcus walked forward slowly. Every step was measured. Dana followed on his right side, scanning every room. The building that once symbolized authority now felt uncertain, like it was waiting for something to break. An officer stepped forward nervously. Sir, this is a local command facility, Dana interrupted immediately. Federal authority override, stand down. The officer froze, then slowly stepped back. Marcus didn't stop walking. His eyes moved across every face, every corridor, every door. He wasn't searching randomly. He was mapping behavior, reactions, fear points. Because fear always tells the truth first. At the far end of the hall, a door opened. Captain Harold Lewis appeared. He was not rushed, not panicked. In fact, he looked calmer than anyone else in the building. Clean uniform, controlled posture, hands behind his back like nothing was wrong, but his eyes were different, sharp, calculating, waiting. So, Lewis said quietly, they finally sent you. Marcus stopped at a distance. I came because you've been waiting too long, Marcus replied. Lewis gave a small smile. Waiting for what? Marcus didn't answer immediately. Because behind Lewis, two officers were already moving subtly toward the side exits. Not normal movement, escape movement, Marcus noticed. Dana noticed too. Lewis followed Marcus's gaze and sighed. Always observant, he said. That's why they chose you. Marcus stepped forward one pace. Chosen for what? Lewis tilted his head slightly. To see how far it all goes before it breaks. That sentence hung in the air. Dana stepped closer to Marcus. We're losing access to internal servers, she whispered. Someone is wiping precinct records remotely. Marcus didn't react outwardly, but his eyes hardened slightly. Lewis noticed that too. You see, Lewis said softly, even now you're reacting to something you can't stop. Marcus looked directly at him. Stop pretending you're not involved. Lewis chuckled lightly. Involved? Marcus, I built half this structure. The hallway went silent. Even officers nearby stopped moving. Lewis took one step forward now. You think Briggs was the problem or Pike. They are symptoms, not the source. Marcus stepped closer. Then you are the source. Lewis nodded once. Part of it. That answer was worse than denial. It was acceptance. Dana raised her weapon slightly. Captain Lewis, you are under federal arrest. Lewis didn't even look at her. Instead, he kept his eyes on Marcus. You still don't understand scale, Lewis said. This system doesn't collapse because you remove people, it adapts. Marcus stepped closer again. Systems fall when pressure reaches the center. Lewis smiled faintly. Then find the center. A sudden alarm beep echoed through the building. Dana checked her device immediately. Server wipe accelerating. We're losing full case archives. Marcus turned slightly. Where is the backup node? Dana answered fast. Sublevel storage, basement secure room. Lewis shook his head slowly. Too late for that. Marcus looked at him. Lewis leaned in slightly. You really think I would wait in my office while you walked in? For the first time, Marcus paused, not fear, calculation. Lewis stepped back. You're already inside the fallback protocol. Suddenly, lights in the hallway flickered. Emergency locks began activating. Steel doors started closing at both ends of the corridor. Dana's eyes widened. He's sealing the precinct. Marcus turned sharply. Evacuate all personnel now. But it was already happening too fast. Officers rushed in panic. Some ran toward exits. Some were trapped as doors slammed shut. Lewis raised his voice slightly. Containment protocol initiated, he said calmly. No data leaves this building. Marcus stepped forward. You're locking your own people inside. Lewis replied without emotion. Collateral is acceptable. That sentence changed the tone completely. Dana looked at Marcus. He's willing to burn the entire system. Marcus didn't respond immediately because now he understood something. Lewis was not defending corruption. He was protecting something behind it. Marcus moved fast. Basement access, now. He turned toward the emergency stairs. Dana followed instantly. Lewis called out behind them. You can run all you want, Marshal, but you're still inside the structure. Marcus didn't stop walking. He only said one thing. Then I'll go to the foundation. And he disappeared into the stairwell as the precinct began locking itself down from the inside. The stairwell was dark and tightening with every second. Emergency locks had already started sealing upper floors, and the sound of metal sliding into place echoed like a countdown through the building. Marcus Reed moved fast now, no longer slow and observational. This was no longer surveillance. It was survival inside a collapsing system. Dana stayed close behind him, her flashlight cutting through the darkness. We've got maybe minutes before full lockdown reaches the basement, she said urgently. Marcus didn't slow down. Then we don't take minutes. They reached the lower level door. It was reinforced steel with biometric lock. Dana tried access codes on her device. Read error again. Error. Marcus stepped forward and studied the panel for half a second. Then he pulled a small device from his jacket, not a weapon, a bypass key. Within seconds, the lock clicked open. Dana looked at him. You had that ready? Marcus pushed the door open. I had everything ready. They entered the basement corridor. Cold, industrial, quiet, but not empty. Footsteps echoed ahead. Someone was already there. Marcus raised his hand slightly. Dana stopped instantly. Two agents moved ahead silently. Then voices. Erase node in progress, one said. Confirm purge complete in 8 minutes. Marcus signaled forward. The team moved. They turned the corner. 3 internal tech officers were at a server rack, rapidly disconnecting drives, wiping backups, and running destruction protocols. Marcus stepped into the light. Step away from the system, he said calmly. The officers froze. One recognized him immediately. Marshal Reed, Marcus looked at him. You have 10 seconds to stop. The lead officer shook his head. We're under direct command override from Captain Lewis. Marcus replied, Lewis is under arrest. That hit them hard. One officer stepped back immediately. Another hesitated. The third kept typing. Dana moved forward, hands away from the keyboard. The third officer suddenly tried to trigger manual wipe. He didn't finish. A federal agent grabbed him and pulled him away. Marcus walked to the server rack. Screens flashed red warnings. Data destruction in progress. How deep is this node? Marcus asked. Dana checked quickly. This is the secondary archive, but it mirrors main federal routing logs. Marcus paused. That meant every transaction, every name, every connection could still exist elsewhere. Somewhere higher. He looked at the system carefully. Stop the wipe, Dana tried. I can't reverse it without the master key. Marcus turned. Where is it? One of the captured tech officers spoke quickly. Only Lewis has physical authentication clearance. Marcus stared at him. He didn't come down here. Silence. Then realization, Dana whispered, so he's letting this burn. Marcus shook his head slightly. No, he looked at the servers again. He's not destroying evidence. He turned sharply. He's moving it, Dana frowned. Moving it where? Marcus already understood. External ghost network. Suddenly one screen flickered. A single outgoing transfer route activated. Destination unknown. Encrypted relay, not local, not even national. Marcus stepped back. He's exporting everything. Dana's eyes widened. If that completes, we lose the entire case globally. Marcus turned fast. Cut physical power to node. Engineers rushed. They pulled breakers. Nothing changed. The transfer continued. Marcus stepped forward. He didn't hesitate. Manual shutdown override. Dana grabbed him. That could wipe everything, including evidence we already secured. Marcus looked at her. Or we let it escape. That silence was enough. Dana nodded once. Do it. Marcus moved to the main control panel. He inserted a federal override key. System asked confirmation. Final termination protocol. Yes, no. Marcus paused only 1 second, then pressed yes. The room shook slightly as backup systems engaged emergency shutdown. Lights flickered, servers slowed, transfer bar stalled mid-progress, then stopped. Silence. Dana exhaled. Did we get it? Marcus checked the logs. Partial capture, not complete, but enough. He lost most of it, Marcus said, but not all. Suddenly, one terminal blinked. A message appeared on screen. Marcus read. You are only cutting branches. The root is untouched. Marcus stared at it. Dana saw it too. That's not Lewis. Marcus replied quietly. No, the message continued. You were never chasing corruption. You were mapping permission. Marcus's expression hardened. Because that wasn't a threat. It was confirmation. Somewhere above Lewis, someone was watching everything in real time. The building above them suddenly shook. Alarms triggered. Dana looked up. What now? Marcus didn't answer immediately. He looked at the screen one last time, then spoke. Now we go higher. And above them, the precinct's final lockdown sealed the basement behind them, trapping them deeper inside the system they had just tried to destroy. The basement doors sealed shut behind Marcus Reed with a heavy mechanical thud, cutting off the last exit to the upper floors. The sound echoed through the underground corridor like a final warning. Emergency lights flickered red across the walls, painting everything in a tense, unstable glow. Dana checked her device quickly. We're fully locked in, she said. No external access, no comms out. Marcus didn't answer immediately. He was staring at the frozen terminal screen in front of him. The message still remained. Marcus Reed, you are only cutting branches. The root is untouched. Then it disappeared on its own, like it had been timed, like someone had only wanted him to see it for a moment. Marcus exhaled slowly. He's watching everything in real time, he said quietly. Dana looked around. Then we move fast before he decides to erase this place too. Marcus turned toward the emergency corridor. Lewis wasn't the top, he said. He was just the door. They moved deeper into the basement structure. The air grew colder, the lights more unstable. Pipes rattled above them. Somewhere in the building, systems were failing faster now. Above ground, the precinct was in controlled shutdown, but below something else was still active, a hidden layer. Dana suddenly stopped. Marcus, look at this. She pointed to a sealed steel door marked. Level authorized federal clearance. Only Marcus studied it. No mention of this level had appeared in official blueprints. Pulled a bypass device again. Dana grabbed his arm. If this is above clearance even for Lewis, Marcus cut in, then that's exactly where we need to go. He unlocked the door. It opened slowly with a deep hydraulic sound. Inside was not a storage room, it was a command archive hub. Massive screens lined the walls. Servers were active, not destroyed. This system had not been touched by the purge upstairs. Dana stepped inside carefully. This is not precinct tech, she said. Marcus nodded once. No, this is federal infrastructure. Suddenly, monitors lit up one by one. A live connection activated. One central screen flickered, then a face appeared, not Lewis, not Pike. A new figure, calm, older, controlled. Marshal Reed, the voice said. Marcus stared at the screen. Who are you? The man smiled faintly. You've already touched my system. Dana whispered. Marcus, that's not a precinct feed. That's National Secure Relay. The man on the screen leaned slightly forward. You dismantled my local assets faster than expected, he said. Marcus replied coldly. Your assets were criminals. The man nodded. Yes, useful ones. Silence hit the room. Marcus narrowed his eyes. You were behind Lewis. The man didn't deny it. Lewis maintained structure. Pike managed movement. Briggs handled ground pressure. Marcus took one step closer. And you? The man smiled again. I maintain balance. Dana stepped forward. Balance. You're running trafficking, extortion, corruption at federal scale. The man corrected her gently. I am preventing collapse. Marcus interrupted. You're controlling it. The man looked directly at Marcus now. Control is stability. Marcus's voice dropped lower. And victims, the man paused. Collateral distribution. Dana reacted instantly. That's inhumane. The man tilted his head slightly. It is necessary. Marcus studied him carefully now. Everything made sense in a darker way. Lewis was containment. Pike was transport. Briggs was enforcement. And this man was architecture. Marcus spoke slowly. This system doesn't protect order, it protects itself. The man nodded. Finally, suddenly, alarms triggered in the room. Dana checked the system. He's initiating full purge protocol on this level. Marcus turned fast. Can you stop it? Dana shook her head. Not from here. The man on the screen spoke again. You are standing inside my last physical node. When it falls, everything resets. Marcus looked at him. You built something that depends on silence. The man replied calmly. I built something that survives exposure. Marcus stepped closer to the screen. Then you miscalculated. The man raised an eyebrow. How? Marcus said one word. Me. Dana suddenly understood. Marcus, what are you doing? He didn't answer her. Instead, he activated his comm directly to all federal field units. All units, he said. Transmit full archive capture package now. Dana's eyes widened. You can't broadcast this level of data without clearance, Marcus interrupted. I already have clearance. The system on the screen reacted instantly. Stop transmission, the man said sharply for the first time. Marcus didn't stop. Too late. The data flow began. Everything in levels started uploading to every federal oversight node Marcus had preloaded months ago. The man's calm expression changed slightly. Not panic. Concern. You were never just undercover, he said. Marcus looked at him. Neither were you. The upload bar reached halfway. Then 70%, the man leaned forward. You think exposure will end this, Marcus answered. No. Then why do it? Marcus paused, then said clearly, because now it can be seen. The upload hit 90%. Systems began failing across the room. Lights flickered violently. The man's image distorted. You are breaking something you don't understand, he said. Marcus replied, I understand enough. The screen glitched. This is not over, the man warned. Marcus stepped back as the system began collapsing. It is now visible, he said, and then everything went black. Servers shut down, screens died. The level -3 room went silent. Dana looked around. Did we just end it? Marcus stood still for a moment, then looked at her. No, he said quietly. We just forced it into the open. Far above them, alarms across the city began to activate one by one. Not local, not isolated, national. And somewhere in the darkness beyond the system, something that had never been